Hi, I'm Iwan Fox and welcome to the latest 4BR Review podcast, where I'm joined by my colleague Chris Thomas for this special festive episode, if you didn't know, in which we reveal the nominations for the annual 4Barsrest Awards. 2025 has been an intriguing year in the banding world, a mix of certainties and uncertainties, as well as highs and lows that showcase both the movement's resolve and fragility. There was still plenty to enjoy and admire though, and that made the choices for this year's awards, celebrating our 25th year, so difficult. They are decided upon by myself as 4BR editor, after some considered consultation. The final decision, however, on the winners of each of the 9 categories, though, lies with a panel of critics and informed observers of the global movement. The 4BR editor also given his opinion, which acts as a casting vote in the event of a tie. The announcement of the winners will be made on a busy Christmas morning, alongside the recipient of the 4BR Special Award. The 2025 categories are as follows: Band of the Year, Conductor of the Year, Player of the Year, Test Piece of the Year, Lower Section or Youth Band of the Year, Contest Performance of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, CD of the Year, and the Solo Stroke Ensemble CD of the Year as well. As always, your views and opinions are key, so please be part of the live discussion by posting your comments on the YouTube comments box on the screen, agreeing, disagreeing, or coming up with a few favourites of your own that you believe should have been considered. I am not omnipotent and my decision is not final, so that if you've got an idea of somebody that you want to put forward, please do that. So, hi Chris, it's that time of year again, and the plethora of awards that reflect back on 12 months that certainly kept us busy, entertained, and occasionally tearing out what little hair we had left.
Evening, Ewan. Happy Christmas to one and all.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, it's been quite a year, Ewan, really, when we look back on it, hasn't it? And you and I have been amongst the judges for the 4BR Awards for quite a few years now. And what I love about it is that it just gives you an opportunity to sit and actually reflect on what the year has brought. There were always positives, there were always great moments, 1 or 2 moments, as you say, that have us tearing our hair out. There's not much left of mine, that's for sure. But I think this year particularly, I mean, there've been some really good highs, haven't there? We've had some fantastic moments, some great contest performances, etc. But yeah, time to reflect, Ewan, on what the year has given us.
All right then, so we've got about an hour, so we're going to try and pack in everything as we possibly can to fly through this. And without further ado, we haven't got a drum roll. We should have had that, shouldn't we? But that's costing money for us. Costing money for 4Barsrest. The first category that the nominations are for the 2025 Solo or Ensemble CD of the Year. And there they are. And I have to say, right at the beginning, there is a small caveat. And the caveat is that some people, once they're reading through that, will be wondering where a couple of the CDs are. But because of postal strikes, etc., and some of the CDs didn't get to me in time, there are a few CDs which are now being put over to 2026. Yeah. That includes Still Glides the Stream by David Childs, which I think there's still about 3,000.
Locked in Harwich, I believe.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot, but so there's plenty to enjoy. I think in 2026 for that one there, so that will come there. Also, there was a CD on the Band of the Year, which we couldn't be able to do, which is from Brass Band Willebroek, which is called European Brass 25. And literally today, one dropped through the post, which I've been looking forward for a while, but only just came, which was 3 Voices by Bastien Beaumé. So those will be going into next year's pile. But as you can see from there, there's plenty of great releases that we've enjoyed. There's been some, I have to say, usually in the past, solo CDs have been, in the shadow of some of the band releases. But this year, there's been some really strong and really fine productions.
I think it's been a fantastic year for solo CDs, Ewan, and I've spent quite a lot of time with many of these discs in this category in recent weeks, because I've been judging the awards for Brass Band World as well, and there were some magnificent releases. And actually, I think the first on the list, one of the first highlights of the year for me was Tim de Messenier, the Belgian horn player, giving the world premiere of Edward Gregson's Horn Concerto at Manchester at the RNCM. So this was really the first CD. It was a very early release. I think it came out in January, just ahead of that premiere. And it was the first of these discs that really jumped out at me as a fine recording this year.
Yeah, I have to say he put a great performance right at the beginning of the year. He did, of course. Then came the CD. He may get a mention later on tonight as well, in possibly some other categories also. But it was good to hear some from different ones as well. For instance, the Connection CD by Imogen Whitehead, a wonderful trumpet play, flugel playing of the very, very highest class. And that was with the Britten Sinfonia. That was a great one. Introduction by Kyle Lawson, the New Zealander, ex-principal cornet player of Brighouse and Rastrick Band.
Wonderful
Premier
lyrical
CD.
cornet playing.
Yeah. Honestly, and a player reminded you of David King playing.
Yeah,
in
very
his
much so. Very much so. That style of lyricism, that languid lyricism that David King was such a master of, very much in that mould, as you say.
Well, the other one there, the Neoteric Ensemble Volume 1. A little bit of a niche one, but I have to say some wonderful playing. It's a small ensemble. It's only a quintet or so of them playing, but a really, really fine little band they put together.
We like niche, Ewan. There's no problem. We like niche. They do. No problem.
Yeah, some of my choices are a bit niche as well. There we have Shift by Peter Moore with Tridiga Band. Yeah, what can I say about that gentleman with his playing? And a fine... I have to from another trombone player, Brett Baker. The Heroic trombone is 37th CD release. I think he's done a CD release for every year since the CD has come out. But he's back on the very top of his form with that one, a fine one.
Absolutely.
Transatlantic by Onyx Brass, the ensemble there, some super players.
Very cleverly programmed, this one as well, Ewan.
Yeah. It's really good. And there was a David Childs CD in there, and that's the Virtuoso CD, which he produced a little earlier on in the year. Music for Euphonium and Brass Band. It's almost like the Lollipops, but it's the Lollipops as if they were, produced by Willy Wonka and given to a genius.
A CD that on a personal level, I think, means an awful lot to David, because there are a lot of connections with his upbringing as a player, connections to his dad, and there were pieces on there that his dad used to play when his dad was at the sort of top of his playing career. So yeah, fabulous disc, which I know means a lot to David.
We only picked the 8 that came through there, but as I said, it's going to be a very difficult choice, I think, for the panel to give with that one there. As you say, there is a real, not just virtuosity about the solo playing nowadays, but really informed choices. Not all of them are playing with brass bands. Some of them are playing with doing recital performances, etc. Some are using strings, reduced numbers with regards to the accompaniment. There's a lot more thought going into it, and the quality, I have to say, of the productions themselves is very, very high indeed. So that's the nominations for the solo on our ensemble CD of the year. Beyond the Paradox by Tim de Messenier, Connection by Imogen Whitehead, Introduction by Kyle Lawson, the Neoteric Ensemble Volume 1 by the Neoteric Ensemble, Shift by Peter Moore, the Heroic Trombone by Brett Baker, Transatlantic by Onyx Brass, and Virtuoso, the Music for Euphonium and Brass Band by David Childs. There's going to be some hard voting, I think.
Not easy, not easy at all.
Well, there we go. That's the first category. So another drum roll, and we go on to the second category. Thank you very much. My word, how did you do that in the background? I have to say, the producer has done himself proud. I'll have to.
Absolutely, well done, Russell. Well done.
Yeah,
Russell.
get an extra 25p on his fee for that when he does for that part of it. Here you go. So the next category is the 2025 CD of the year. Again, 8 choices that we've made there. Again, the caveat being as well, there's some pieces, some bands that I wanted to look like didn't get through to me, so I didn't manage to get them. The final one of them just came through, and I managed to put up that today, and it was well worthy of putting onto that list. So they are in order: Antiphonies Contemporary Premieres by Black Dyke Band, Brass Odyssey, the music of Robin Stevens by Tridiga, Dancing on the Sand, the last one that came through this week, by Corey Band, Festivities also by Corey, the Cornerstone Series Volume 3, Heritage Series Volume 8, music from the 2000s, the International Staff Band of the Salvation Army, Mike Lovett's Brass Pack Live, which was a live performance at Birmingham Town Hall. Black Dyke Band's performances and recording of the works of Respighi. And Storm by Haute de France Brass Band, conducted by Luc Vertomen. And again, great playing from some great bands, but also interesting choices of the repertoire.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really innovative programming here. I mean, as you said, the Brass Odyssey, the Robin Stevens disc, really, really interesting, takes us into some different territory. The Black Dyke disc, Respighi, in fact, both of the Black Dyke recordings, the Respighi disc, which is a project that I know was very close to Nick Child's heart, and Tiffany's terrific recording that came out earlier this year. Festivities, Cornerstone, some really interesting takes.
Fresh takes,
really breathing new life into one or two pieces from Phil Harper and Corey there. And then right at the end, Storm, Haute de France, which just for me a really underrated band in many ways, Haute de France. I think Luc Vertomen, again, really interesting programming, has some very interesting ideas about repertoire and taking the band into different territories. I remember they played wonderfully well at the European Championships earlier this year. So again, some really difficult decisions to be made for the judges here, I think.
It was interesting you talked about the repertoire as well. On that Storm CD, there was a suite by Leonard Bernstein and also a suite by Astor Piazzolla on that Storm one. And then flick it onto the other side, you have the wonderful play of the Black Dyke on the Respighi with the Pines at home, the Fountains at home, etc.
It's a sonic spectacular.
Yeah, and then you got Corey with breathing new life into those classics of the repertoire. Tredegar then doing what they do, going really reaching out into the contemporary sphere to do that part of it. And again, the International Staff Band, it's the last recording that was done with Dr. Stephen Cobb, and it's a really fine recording as well. And it's got a little twist at the end of it where they're actually speaking to somebody talking about the repertoire. So there's a track on there where it's explaining about the music being played, which is really, really clever indeed. So again, Chris, I think it's going to be a very difficult choice for you lot, and say if it's going to come to me and say whether or not there's going to be a casting vote. I hope it doesn't come to me for that one, but you never know. But some great band playing and some great ensemble playing on there. And as I say, also with things like Mike Lovett and the Brass Pack Live, which was a great night in Birmingham, if I remember rightly. God, blimey, there were dogs outside screaming their ears off. They was playing so high in places. It was great stuff there. So that's the Band of the Year CDs. Now we are followed by the next category. And cue our terrible percussionist, if he's going to be doing the drums once again. There he goes. Thank
a bongo drum roll, no less.
It is, yeah. It's like Ali Bongo drum roll he's on, I think, more than anything. Right, we have the Newcomer of the Year, and it's always an interesting one to do this. So. And the nominees that we come up with are Alec Banner, who is the fine young percussion player with the Flowers Band. He's won a number of awards. He's really expanding his portfolio. He's doing some conducting now as well. He conducted with the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain. Really talented lad. He's already been recognised, I think, with a Rising Star Award from Brass Bands England. Then there was a very interesting little programme that came on BBC Radio 3, Brass Banding with Hannah Peel. So that's come on there as well. You got Brass Matters with the podcast, which is, of course, with the quite wonderful John Wallace, CBE, meeting up with his friends. Great chats that he has there. A wonderful new player, that Caris Wood, cornet and trumpet player now at the Royal Academy in London, but played with the Corey Band. She came under the wing of Martin Britt at the Corey Band. Really, really talented player. Won a lot of solo awards in youth competitions and senior competitions in 2025. Isha Austin, a young 14-year-old composer who was the youngest composer to be featured in the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain Composers Competition. He wrote a piece called March Triomphale, which was played at the Children's Band. There's a real talent. We sent him some scores, which I think he was an early Christmas present for him. Then we have the conductor Eileen Storheim, who was the runner-up at the European Brass Band Championships conducting competition. It's
very
such an
impressive
impression here with
Absolutely.
really
yeah.
did. Won the audience prize, didn't win the top prize, but won the audience prize. But a talent to look out for. Then we have the Fife Daytime Brass, which is a community project up there supported by the Fife Brass Band Association, which is to provide a safe space for people to come along and enjoy their playing once a week in the afternoon. And it's been a great success, and I hope many others actually copy that there.
Yeah.
Our apologies. It should be That's Not Banding, not It's Not Banding. That's my fault. The two lads, I'm going to say effervescent young chaps they are indeed. Chris Robertson and Tom Smith from the Brighouse and Rastrick Band.
Yeah.
Their podcast is exceptionally popular. Leaves us for dust. They do with regards to viewers, etc.
Very funny.
Very funny, but makes a number of very, very pertinent points with them. They've created a real niche for themselves, and a lot of people listening to them there. So that's that one. Then we have Mountain Brass in Concert, which is the new Swiss entertainment contest, which took place, I think, in June or July. And that's an interesting one because Swiss banding only doesn't really have a great contesting culture, especially entertainment contesting culture. The Swiss are very, very good at many, many things, but you don't get to hear them laugh very often. You don't really know what tickles their funny bone. But if you went back on that one and check out what the bands actually did on the day, it was great fun. And finally, Will Everett, who was one of the winners of the National Youth Brass Band of Great Britain Composer Competition, and his work was called Enclosures. I got to think of what the
Variations on an Enclosure.
That's it, and that was played at the National Youth Brass Band concert conducted by Martin Brabants. There was a lot of high-class, high-profile, mature composers there, and all of them just said, "Yeah, that's a person who can really, really write for the medium." So that's there. And again, there's a wide variety with newcomers. It's great to see it in different areas where these people are making a mark in the banding world.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really diverse range of musicians, groups and events, isn't it, that? And then it's just great to see new people coming through, young composers that really, really need our encouragement to progress. Brass banding with Hannah Peel, that was an interesting one earlier in the year that we talked about in previous podcasts. If you're going to give an award for the 4Barsrest, Curate's Egg, it was brass banding with Hannah Peel, wouldn't it? Because a lot of it was brilliant, and a lot of it was just bizarre. We had our opinions on it, Ewan, didn't we? Looking back, and as you say, I mean, in parts it was terrific, and then there were other parts where there didn't seem to be any kind of central theme running through it or any kind of structure to it, but in a funny kind of way it still worked. So that's a really interesting one. The Fife Daytime Brass Project, that's a terrific idea, and I think Katrina Marcella Wheel has been involved in that here and there as well. Terrific community project. I'm really pleased to see that one there.
It is, and of course, that's not banding a beating touch already. With thanks very much, lads. We have to. It comes with
at least we know they're watching you, and that's the main thing, isn't it? So
thanks, guys. Age will catch up with them at one time. They will look like us and be like us and start forgetting where your car keys are and stuff like that. And
Chris already looks like Dracula, and he's got no chance.
He's life eternal he's got, for that part of it. I have to say, for the pair of them at the Brassing Concert Championships, they really bought into it. What they do. So fantastic for that. So we're not giving anything away. But there are some great ones. Alex Banner, the young player, and Caris Wood. The future is, is a bit of a cliche, but the future is in safe hands when you've got players of that ability and talent. And the same with Isha Austin and Will Everett, the two young composers. My word, they are real talent there. And also, I mentioned, as we say, Aline Storheim, who was so impressive at the European Conductors competition. She didn't win, but she really did make an impression, and she really wants to work within the banding world. So there we are. If I get my 10% for any booking fee for her, please get in contact with her as well.
It's unlikely, Ewan, but worth mentioning nonetheless.
But a wonderful talent. So that's the newcomer of the year. So without further ado, we go on to the next category. And the next category is, there we are, Thank you,
Contest
Cozy
performance of the
Yeah,
year.
thank you, Cozy Powell on the drums there. He was doing a great one. Right, the contest performances of the year. We have, I got to look at my, because I'm doing this, Valencia Brass Band with Mnemosyne Phrases at the Swiss National Championships, Brighouse and Rastrick, Star-Crossed Lovers, of course, at the British Open, the
Yeah.
Cooperation Band, La Premiere Brass and Concert Championship, Manga Music Lag, a Gabrielli Fantasy, the own choice at the Norwegian National Championships, Eikanger Bjørsvik Music Lag with Concerto number 10 by Ludwig Nero, which was their own choice performance at
Yeah.
the European
Yeah.
Championships. Then we have Brass Band Willebroek, Transitions in Energy, also there in Stavanger as the set work. And then Hordaland Ungdom Brass Band won the premier section of the European Youth Brass Band Championships in Stavanger, conducted by Reid Gillier. They were brilliant there. And finally, South Yorkshire Police with a suite from Adam Zero in the second section national final. You heard Brighouse, Manga, Eikanger, Willebroek, and Copper Ensemble de Valsang as well. Oh, but I forgot to mention those. They were at the bottom there. And also Wardle Academy. I missed them off on my list, but they are up on there. So you just take us quickly through each of those performances, all of them memorable in different ways.
Yeah, Brighouse. It was an interesting day at the Open in September. I mean, Brighouse were on magnificent form that day. You know, the piece Star-Crossed Lovers by Stephen Roberts. I don't think any band really came through it completely unscathed, but there were moments of pure magic in Brighouse's performance that day, typically inspired by David King, of course, and some wonderful playing. So that one is still living on in my memory. Manga's performance of Gabrielli Fantasy at the Norwegians. This is going back to the early part of the year in February. Again, a fabulous performance. So much detail and precision on display.
And
in
played,
that
I remember, and played with that Baroque style at the beginning,
Absolutely.
which is essential to everything. It wasn't brass band playing. It was absolute. It was Baroque chamber music playing, wasn't there?
We sat at the beginning and thought, wow, this is really fantastic playing. It was, again, a very memorable performance. Eikanger, I mean, at the beginning of Ludwig Nero's concerto in the Europeans, it opens with that bass chorale, doesn't it? And again, I can remember just sitting there thinking, my goodness, this is just really special playing. So again, moments of pure magic in that performance. Willebroek at the Europeans, Transitions in Energy, really interesting piece. I think they won that set test, the first leg of the contest, quite convincingly, didn't they? And
they did. I got to put my hand up here because myself and I think he was the chap from Bessen, from Belgium and Holland from Bessen. Both of us walked into it and we just said, "Yeah, that's won by a mile." Other people thought otherwise, but it had that. If you enjoyed what they did, it had such it had a beauty about it, especially that central section with it.
A lot of different opinions that day on the set test at the Europeans, but Willebroek emerged worthy winners at the end of it, and a very fine performance of Transitions. And then finally, Copper Ensemble de Valsang. I heard this performance of Occasion, Edward Gregson's Occasion in Utrecht, and what a fine band they are. It was a really musical performance, very mature performance of a piece that again, one of Gregson's really fine lower section test pieces. It was great to hear it. I hadn't heard it for quite a few years, and a performance of real maturity from them.
You said it was a corker at the time, I think, and you said and it's interesting. Sometimes with lower section bands, you think, oh, how can you compare that against the likes of Willebroek and Eikanger?
It was a clear winner on the day. Yeah,
when it's played well and when it's played with such understanding, the music speaks for itself. And you're not worried about a little bit of a missed note here or there. The musicality that comes up, that can be done at any level with any band at any section. And that was as I reading your remarks with regards to that, I think that absolutely shone.
And I think we know with Gregson's music, it's not just about playing the notes. It's the musicality that can be drawn from Gregson's scores. And this was just one of those performances at third section level in Holland that you thought, wow, this is a fine band playing of its very best. It was a really memorable performance. I can remember thoroughly enjoying it at the time.
Well, back in return, I'll do my little quintet then. Valencia, Nemesis Phrases at the Swiss National Championships. You know what you're going to get at the Swiss National Championships. You're going to be smashed in the face with, blockbusters all the time. But, just when you were just about pummeled to death, this band came on and just played. Wonderful piece, I have to say. Absolutely wonderful piece. But played it in such a way, so much understanding, so much balance and quality about the different textures about it. And everything about it just made sense. I have to say, Arsene Duke is a lot of people just think that he must be easy to conduct a band like so many talents in front of him. But the way in which the way in which he shaped that music, that takes Torstein Hagen Nielsen's music takes a lot of understanding at times. But when you do get it, is so rewarding. And I think that performance just stood out. I think somebody said...
And Arsene is a perfectionist, isn't he,
Yeah.
Ewan? I mean, everything has to be absolutely pristinely in its place. And you need that with Torsten Hagen Nielsen's music as well.
Yeah, I think somebody made the remark, says it was as if when it came to the composition itself, it was as if an adult had walked into the room full of children. It was, they were all playing with their toys and having great
That's
fun.
a really nice analogy. I like
and
that.
hyperactive and all that part of it. And all of a sudden, quite serious adult walked into the room. And it was, that part of it there. So that one there. The Cooperation Band at La Première at Brassing Concert, I think without doubt, that was one of the most deserved winners and the one that made a mark, I think, on the banding world throughout 2025, simply because the way in which Brassing Concerts has been going over the years, we thought we were going to get more and more of these type of things. And then all of a sudden, a band came along. They weren't alone. Others did it as well. But this band came along, thought about what they had to do, both with the presentation, but backed it up with the musical substance. You had you had the wonderful actor doing Coco Chanel. That was brilliant. Don't get me wrong, but it was backed up by quality music making from a band playing with such confidence and understanding what it needed to do. And it's not often you get an audience coming out. Everybody, they were the band on everybody's lips. It would have been almost a travesty if they hadn't have won. It was so well deserved. So congratulations to them there. Hordaland we mentioned them a little bit earlier on. With their performance at the Premier Section, the European Youth Championships under Reid Gillier. I tell you what, they're a young band. They have the pick of the players around the Bergen area or whatever, and some of them go on to play with the senior bands, including the likes of Eikanger and that. But my word, what a performance they gave. It was like listening to an adult band playing at the top of their form. Reid Gillier is such a clever
conductor. Yeah.
Everything is in his hands. Everything is just in his hands. And the way in which he had the band under control, but the way in which the band responded to him was quite brilliant. There was little youngsters there, eyes on him all the time, and what they gave back in return was quite incredible. And two other ones, South Yorkshire Police Band with Lee Baker winning the second section. Suite from Adam Zero, a difficult piece to bring together because the arrangement by Bob Charles had to put it into different orders, etc. But to make sense of it, you still needed to understand what it was all about. They drew, I think it was number 3.
I think they won by 3 or 4 points, didn't they, Ewan? If I remember
I can't remember. It was a clear win.
It was a significant winning margin.
And his was, I have to say to Lee, he's a really clever, informed musician. But his band played well. He had some super players around there. But he brought it for what it was. It's ballet music. He had a lightness about it, but it still had a meaning. It had everything about it. Every piece that came through, every part of the movements and all the individual lines all meant something. And he shaped it and balanced it. And right at the end, it came to the correct climax where it almost goes and repeats itself there. It was a wonderfully fine performance. And the last one there, Wardle Academy Youth Band, Tech Takeover at the Youth Brassing Concert Championships. It comes to the point, I'm not very tech orientated, Chris, but it comes to something. They were asking the audience to be involved in there, but it was the way in which Brad McCulloch and his band put everything together. They are so well drilled, don't get me wrong, blimey. If they ever bring back national service for brass band in, his lot will be put straight into the front line. But what they have to say with them is that they fully understood it. They played it with a real like a sense of brio about it. Everything they wanted to do, they wanted to, just show what it meant. And it was all brought together. It was wonderful playing, I have to say. But it was the
terrific
overall
direction
package.
again, Ewan, I think, from the middle. Terrific conducting and attention to detail.
And that was the thing with brass in concert, a bit like the senior winners with the cooperation band. You have to put substance and style together, and that's what they did. And they have to say they were a wonderful band that day and fully deserved their victory. So again, there's going to be some difficult choices for everybody to make. On the one hand, you've got Torstein Agard Nielsen, and then all the way down on the other hand, then you've got Tech Takeover with the Youth Brass in Concert Championship. So it's a little bit of everything for people to consider.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Another tough category to vote on. It's going to give us plenty to think about, Ewan, I think.
Yep, so there we go then. Right then, is Cozy Powell ready on the drums? If it is, because we're coming into the next category. Blimey,
I'm glad it's not Buddy Rich, Ewan. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's the bloke from the rank. That's the bloke from the Rank Films, isn't it? who was crashing it there. Strangely, I'll tell a quick story with that. The bloke who actually did the Rank Films with that great gong was played by a gentleman called James Blades, if you remember him, from the 1970s. Little old bloke who used to do all the percussion. And he actually played it, and he did it on a little 10-inch dinner gong. So when you see it on Rank Films, you see this bloke coming in and it's a papier-mâché thing about this, the size of a UFO.
I think we should point out that when you watch the opening of the film, the guy hitting the gong is not James Blades, Ewan.
No, it is. It's about 95.
Looked more like Johnny Weissmuller or somebody like that, didn't it? So.
It is, but there we are. Just it out. Anyway, that means that we've just missed telling people what we are. We're in the lower section, Youth Band of the Year.
We are.
And there are some wonderful bands here. Arbroath and Carnoustie, fourth section national champions of Great Britain. BML Talents, who won the first division, but it's the elite division as they call it in Switzerland, but also we're at the European Youth Championships. Brass band Amersfoort, who you heard at the Dutch Nationals.
Fabulous
Dob
band.
Cross Silver, who of course are a band that's possibly the most successful contest-winning band in the UK, I think, but in 2025. Hordaland Ungdoms, so we've already mentioned once as well, with their wonderful performances and things that they're doing. The National Children's Band of Great Britain, and what they're doing as an organisation, etc. And not only that, with the performances themselves. Regent Brass, Alan Duguid's band, 40th anniversary this year, but what a 40th anniversary. Away from the contesting platform. They just missed out, I think, of going to Cheltenham, but they still had such a memorable year. The Shepherd Youth Band, which is part of the wider Shepherd group of organisations. But this is a young band which really displays everything about the ethos of the Shepherd Group and the performances that they've done, I think, at the National Youth Championships and at the Brass in Concert Championships, especially in an area in the northeast, which has really been struggling for players over the last few years. This is an absolute beacon that others should be following. Then we have Wardle Academy, of course. We've already spoken about them. Brad McCulloch and his band, they do a fantastic job in inspiring the next generation after that to be taking up brass banding. And finally, if I can get it right, Etra Bigda School Corps, which is also one of the European champions from Norway, of course. So again, bands at different levels, bands that have got different types of organisations in it, but all of them with this ethos about promoting youth and making brass banding fun and inclusive.
Yeah, and as you say, real diversity in here, Ewan. I mean, some young bands. I mean, Regent Brass, I have to say, particularly impressed with their adventurous, innovative attitude to programming, really different repertoire. As you say, Alan Duguid's got some really interesting ideas about programming contemporary music. They've played brand new music. They've played music that they've pulled out of the archives almost and sort of brought back to the forefront. And then just going back, because I heard the performance in Utrecht, I can remember Brass Band Amersfoort, who won the first section in
Yeah.
Utrecht, playing Connotations. Another fabulous winning performance in Holland. A fine band. So again, just real diversity amongst some of the younger bands, but also bands that are just taking repertoire in different directions and doing different things.
I think it's interesting as well. It's not just about what we say about the bands themselves. It's not about what they do in the contesting stage.
It's not. It's not at all.
For instance, Arbroath and Carnoustie, even though they were crowned fourth section Scottish champions, then went on and won the fourth section national championships. That's an example, and banding is full of this, that the tribalism in banding, which kills a number of bands in different areas.
Yeah.
I think the Arbroath one, it says, was formed in 1893.
Yeah.
But since 2022, been linked to Carnoustie, and if people know about Carnoustie Youth Band, they were have been so successful over the years.
That band has produced some fine players, Ewan, hasn't it?
All of a sudden they brought those two together. Now they're enjoying success. So if we can get away from a tribalism, they're an absolutely shining example of what is great. BML Talents. I was out in Switzerland, as you know, a couple of weeks ago. Went to see brass band Bürgermusik Lucerne. At their headquarters, where BML Talents is like their B band in a way.
Yeah.
And I tell you, they are remarkable. They won their section, as I say, playing Forest of Arden by Philip Wilby, which is a championship section test piece by a margin.
And an
played it very, very well.
Inspirational MD in Patrick Ottiger, Ewan, who really does lead that band with serious flair and style, a really inspirational character. And
the other part to mention from that, I think I was talking to Michael Bach, and he said out of brass band Bürgermusik Lucerne, about 80% or more of their players have come through from BML Talents.
Remarkable.
So that is the reason for that. And they do all sorts of different things. I think they go on television shows and everything from that. They've got a fantastic outlook. As you say, with Amersfoort as well, they won the Dutch First Section Championships and the French Open. Dob Cross, if we're looking for a traditional band and what they should be good at, brilliant, because my word, Jason M. Smith, he leads a band that has been winning everything. They've won the Northwest area, national champions in third section, winners at Buxton, Rochdale, win on the Whit Friday circuit, and all that. Then they got the famous Dob Cross Band Club, which they put on band performances on a Sunday. So, that's a band that understands what it's good at with the contesting and also what it's got to do to survive by promoting itself. So wonderful from that. And as we say, Regent Brass, National Children's Band of Great Britain, which is an organisation, I have to say, which is as a beacon, really, of everything that is good about banding. It's all about promoting inclusion, diversity, safety, support, innovation, invention, etc. with the music that it plays, the music that it commissions, the players that it develops, the little innovative projects that it gets on with there. So they're well worthy of coming in there. Hordaland also, they've also got a great outlook, as I talked about. They're in the Bergen area, but it's not just about taking players and going to a competition. It's about giving Norwegian band in that area the next generation players for years and years to come. So they're doing it there. Shepherd Youth Band, as we say, inspirational, played so well at the National Youth Championships in the intermediate section where they won and showcased a great performance at Brass in Concert Championships. Everything under that, they conducted Craig Brown. He really, there's somebody, if you wanted somebody with a bit of charisma and you say, I want to follow this bloke through a brick wall, he's the chap that you want to do. His players will do anything for that bloke there. They're a wonderful example of what's good of them. And as we said, Wardle Academy, we do and we know all about. And of course, they're also all about musical brilliance and inventiveness. And finally, Etrikabiga School Corps, the European Development Youth Championships champions, won in fantastic style, but they've been going since 1963.
Remarkable.
So, they've been producing players generations after generations. There could be people there my age, could have grandchildren or great grandchildren if I was with a kid who were playing in that band. So they are doing an absolutely wonderful job. So, without further ado, if our man on the drums is ready, or on the gong, if he is ready, the next category, the 2025 Test Piece of the Year. And here we go then, and here are the 10 that we've come up with. First of all, Arden Forest by Philip Wilby, which was recently used at the Swiss National Championships. Embracing Duality by Ingeborg Wilhelmsen, which was used at the challenge section at the European Brass Band Championships. Four Brief Actions by Torsten Auged Nielsen, which was also used at the European Youth Championships. Ghosts of Industry by Lucy Pankhurst, which we heard, I think, at the RNCM.
We did. Played by Athena Brass.
But has also been used as a test piece at the North American Brass Band Championships. What I have to say is that all of these have been used as test pieces. These are not own choice pieces. They've all got to be used as a test piece. Daedalus by Andrea Price, which was such a popular and well-received test piece in the full section this year at the regional championships. An older one from the great Morley Calvert, a Canadian introduction, elegy and caprice, which I have to say certainly tested the first section bands in the UK.
It did that.
Have to do that.
And what a great piece. What a great piece.
A great piece. The only piece I've seen where players are more scared of not playing any notes than they are playing notes. There's a part in the one section where they're all counting there, and I think they're all wondering whether or not we're coming wrong. Great piece that we heard a number of years ago played as an own choice. King Kong on Rue Igor Stravinsky by Paul McGee, which was used in the new Premier Division of the Australian National Championships. It's taken a long time to come back, but fantastic piece. Nothing to do with King Kong himself, but something to do with the music played. Then we have one that you've heard more than a couple of times, Partita by Edward Gregson, and of course Symphony in Two Movements, which was used at the National Championships. And finally, a piece that I heard just a couple of weeks ago, Thought Gap by Simon Dobson, which is a third section piece which was used in Switzerland, and again, absolute cracker. So there's some pieces on there that really, take banding in a new direction, but ones that also reflect on banding, not from the not too distant past, but also from a few years ago as well.
Yeah. I think there's a terrific selection of pieces there, and I mean, I'll pick up on some of the pieces that I heard you. And I mean, first of all, Symphony in Two Movements, Edward Gregson. I mean, what a magnificent piece of music. I think it's Eddie's magnum opus. I think he thinks it's his magnum brass band opus. A lot of talk before the contest in London about whether the piece was too long, etc. And yet, in reality, and we said this after the contest, one of those pieces that it's 19 minutes long, but a piece of that quality sustains your interest from the opening bar to the final bar. And that's exactly what that piece did. Really terrific piece of music that I could listen to time and time again, I have to say. Partita, a kind of revival of Partita, really. But I mean, again, just very, very clever lower section writing. It's quite interesting. I know you were very impressed with Simon Dobson's piece, Thought Gap, Ewan, and we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about the skill required to write a really high quality lower section test piece that still retains high musical credentials, and these are pieces that do that. Petita is an absolute classic example of that from Edward Gregson. Ghosts of Industry, Lucy Pankhurst. So imaginative. As you say, we heard this at the Festival of Brass at the RNCM very early in the year, back in January, and I think we both sat there and thought, this is just absolutely terrific. Very dark in places, isn't it? But wonderful sounds, wonderful effects, and very, very cleverly structured and put together. Really, really terrific piece that we really should hear a lot more of, and I really hope that we do.
I do, and I have to say as well, Embracing Duality, Ingeborg Wilhelmsen. Now, Ingeborg, I've talked to and met on a number of occasions, and people are picking up on her works. I think they've been used in Belgium, and on another it is Cosmographic Mystery was one of the first pieces. Really inventive, clever writer, but still not somebody who just puts out, hoops and, rings to jump through, etc. No. There's a thoughtfulness about her writing all the way through. And I have to say, as I say, Arden Forest by Philip Will, on the flip side of new pieces, and then you've got Arden Forest by Philip Wilby is a magnificent piece. I have to say, I'm hoping that somebody will pick it up as a national championship test piece following on from this, because it is absolutely superb. Anything that's got a trombone with a plunger mute in playing the donkey. Playing bottom to Titania in it is something else. But it's done in such a brilliant way. The other thing with it, nobody writes an ending quite like Philip Wilby. Nobody.
That's true.
Does. It is absolutely brilliant there. I Dateless by Andrea Price. We heard another piece of hers again at the RNCM festival. Something to do with was it Earth Rising or something like, if I remember right. And she is such a clever composer. And again, hopefully we'll be hearing much, much more of her works as well. At the higher level also, because these are really, really talented composers.
And another example of a composer that has that skill of not writing down to lower section bands. It's so important that composers have the ability to produce music of that kind of quality without appearing to write down to lower section bands. And Andrea Price is another composer that seems to have that very handy gift, let's say.
Yeah. Some of the comments that have been coming through, Alec Gallagher, person know, of course, as we know well. Somebody, I'm quite sure he's been to a couple of Region Brass concerts, I'm sure, and he will be at the RNCM, so we look forward to seeing him there. It's good to see such a high proportion of non-UK nominations. Might wake some people up. Yep. Indeed, it might be.
Point.
Nigel,
good point.
Nigel Farage, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Alec.
That. Maybe. He's a very well-informed Alec with regards to his musical choices and what he goes to see. As I say, he's not a contesting person. He's very much, but he really does go to any number of concerts. Then we have something from Gigi Retro Rally. Nice to see Dobcross nominated. You can't win almost everything that's put in front of you in 1 year, and it's not to be recognised would be a travesty. So that's, they've done exceptionally well. So they've got deserved of their nomination. Alex come back as well with an interesting one. He said perhaps a piece of music of the year category is needed. Test piece of the year is so restrictive. Liz Lane's Silver Fox. No, that's me. Oh, Silver Rose. Yes, as he puts out something else. Silver Fox. It was a cornered solo, funny enough, played by Athena. I think it was played by Athena Brass at the RNCM. That was called Silver Fox.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Thinking that one there. Yeah. And then Tim Mutum, of course, he says, could test piece of the year be rethought for next year, as it is narrow and means unless they are selected, the music of people such as Paul Miller and Richard Blackford are overlooked.
I think that's a good point that ties in with what Alec was saying, Ewan, in that there is possibly a good case for a category for new piece of the year that isn't restricted to test pieces. We've not heard Richard Blackford's piece yet, but we will hear it in Manchester next month.
We will, and Paul Miller's piece. So Tim, you've got your tickets, I know.
Yeah,
I know Tim has got his ticket, so he'll be there. So we'll be looking at that.
Absolutely.
But yes, after 25
good. Important points, I think, both Tim and Alec have made there.
Yeah, I think after 25 years, we may be able to put something new onto 4Barsrest as well. There we are. We're not stuck as traditionalists all the time from that one. Malcolm Wood, of course, has come in. There could be new categories. Adjudicator of the year, for example. Oh, blimey, that. Malcolm, you know how to make sure you put me on the spot if I started saying who's my favourite adjudicator on that one. I think he's written. I think Malcolm's written that with tongue in cheek there, possibly. Unless he's got it in for me for Christmas. I have to infamy. They all got it in for me, especially Malcolm. I think on that one there. But that's great there. Right then, the next category. Right, our man on the drums, please.
Right on cue, Russell.
And right on cue it is for the 2025 Player of the Year. And right quick, we go through there. Some wonderful players here. Lewis Barton,
what a list.
Cornet and trumpet player now, was principal cornet player of the Leyland Band, RNCM's undergraduate. I still think he's undergraduate there. A man who's got a really bright future ahead of him in the music industry. He was also a wonderful soloist with the National Children's Band earlier on the year. Great player there. Jeremy Kokos, who is I have to say, remarkable soprano player of brass band.
Phenomenal player.
Yeah, there's test pieces where even some great soprano players trying to flannel it. Not this lad. My word, he can play. He can literally play anything. He was at the I think he was the former Swiss solo champion, I think as a cornet player, but as a soprano player, my word, he is quite a quite incredible player.
Yeah.
As I think he won the prize at the Swiss National Championships this year, just to endorse that also.
Yeah.
Tom Hutchinson, of course, 16 years principal cornet player with the Corey Band. Again, won prizes I think he won 2 prizes at the British Open this year, and just a fantastic player.
Yeah.
He's now going heading, of course, to Black Dyke, but again in 2025 he was at the top of his form. Kyle Lawson, corner player, of course, from New Zealand, New Zealand Army Band player, as I say, released his debut CD, Introduction, won the Best Principal Corner Prize at New Zealand Championships with Wellington Brass. Wonderful player, absolutely wonderful player. Tim de Messenia, well, I think we've already known about him. I think he has shown in 2025 just what the tenor horn can do in the hands of a player of his ability. It was quite remarkable. Richard Marshall, and I have to say, with regards to that, 20 years as the principal corner player of Black Dyke, leaving at the very top of his game also. Now will be taking up conducting, will still be playing, I'm quite sure of it. But that wasn't a sentimental choice at all. That is a player who week in, week out has the spotlight on him as the principal corner player of Black Dyke. To do that, not just for 1 year in 2025, for 20 years, is quite remarkable indeed. Andrew McMillan, the wonderful tenor horn player with the Whitburn Band, and also Kelly he played. I think there was an extended run. Night after night, he got up and played the part of Kelly, the musical part of Kelly, and it got rave reviews, all from memory. He is a really great player. He's doing some great stuff at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. He's doing a little bit of conducting as well. But catch this young lad out, because he is some player following in a long line of great Scottish tenor horn players. Talking about great Scots, Chris Robertson. That's Chris Robertson, that's what I have to say. Chris Robertson, of course, the solo euphonium player of the Brighouse and Rastrick Band. And again, a prize winner at the British Open Championships and also the Brass in Concert Championships, where, of course, he played and went into a coffin and still did and still won the prizes there. He's had a fantastic year and he's a quite super player. Then Ashley Ty Hall, who was the principal corner player of Athena Brass Band, and she played a solo at the RNCM Festival, which was incredible. But she's also gone on throughout the year, making an impression with her playing, both with the band, busy solo career. She's a former member of Canadian Brass, and as a trumpeter and a chamber musician, as an educator. She does a lot on social media, Ashley Ty Hall, but really backed it up with her playing. Her playing, I think, at the RNCM Festival was like a reminder of playing from the past. Beautifully controlled and compact. Such a talented player. And finally, Kevin Van Giel, the solo euphonium player from Brass Band Willebroek, the solo prize winner at the European Championships, an integral part of that band's success. All that lower band sound focuses through him, and they do make a wonderful sound. So he is a great player. Hard choices we had to make there, Chris, with regards to that. I'm afraid there's some players I'm quite sure more than deserve to go on there, but I couldn't fit them all in. But worthy choices, do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely worthy choices, Ewan, and you know, some really, really richly deserved choices there. We could have probably doubled that list, actually, couldn't we, if we'd really sat down and thought about it in terms of numbers. It was very, very hard to get it down to those players, but I think they've all made wonderful contributions through the year in different ways. As you say, that the exchange of Richard at Black Dyke and Tom going in, Richard again, as you say, finishing at the very top of his career at the peak. Tom going back to the band that he left to go to Corey 16 years ago. It just feels right, doesn't it, somehow, that? I mean, so, you know, two wonderful players that deserve all of that recognition. And nice to see some players that you know, are on that list for the first time, people like Lewis Barton, as you say, Ashley Ty Hall, Kevin Van Giel has been around for a long time now at Willebroek. But again, what a crucial part of the Willebroek machine he is. I mean, just an integral part of a band which is incredibly tightly knit. not just socially and technically as players, but the sound of the band is just so tightly knit.
Yeah, and as I
you
said, I
say,
think that focus comes through him, that lower end
God,
sound.
absolutely.
That people talk about them
Absolutely.
sounding like the old Black Dyke from the 1970s,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there is almost a link to them there, and it does
Yeah.
come through that player there.
Yeah,
So that's going to be a difficult
absolutely.
choice for our panel
It
with
will.
regards to that. So if we're ready, the penultimate award. Here we go. If we can just We've gone back to the bongos. We have for this one.
absolutely.
We are now on the Conductor of the Year. And again, we could have picked so many with regards to this one. But the choices that I finally had to come up with for the panel to go for is Margaret S. Antrobus. Margaret Antrobus continues to do some remarkable work out wherever she goes. Conductor, arranger, adjudicator, but it was with her conducting both in Norway and especially with the European Youth Brass Band in Stavanger. Really caught the imagination. She's a very charismatic conductor and a very charismatic person, but backs it up such clarity with what she wants to do with everything that she does. David Bremner, of course, from Wellington Brass, but also he conducted Brisbane Excelsior Band when they came runner-up at the Australian. But when he came over to the UK and conducted, not only his playing, but conducted Brighouse and Rastrick Band at the RMCM, that he really opened eyes there with regards to that. Eric Janssen, somebody you can't miss. He's about 11 foot tall, but somebody I think who is really enjoying his almost like freelance career in, because he's won... he won the Norwegian first section with Jaren, the Dutch Open with Schoonhoven, the German Open with 3BA Concert, got a podium finish with Dal Mellington at the Scottish Open, and then led Schoonhoven with a brilliant performance where he went DJing at Brass in Concert. So he comes onto the list there. Sara Manganzini won the Conductors Association Prize this year, 2025. A really talented conductor. I think she's still in the army. I think in one of the branches of the army. She's done some conducting with brass bands before, I think with Andover Band. But she went into this competition and just stood out. I think all the judges just said that she just stood out about how she presented herself, how she directed the band, how she organised the rehearsal, etc. So we'd like to hopefully see more of her as a conductor, and thoroughly deserves her nomination. Katrina Marcella Wheeler. Well, after a year that she has had, I think we would have had a Scottish invasion if we didn't put her into the list. Absolutely. David Morton. Now, I know people would say, why didn't Desford get into the Band of the Year? Possibly, if we find out that. But with David Morton, I have to say, there is a conductor who has come of age. And he came of age, of course, at the Royal Albert Hall with the Desford Band. But also, he works with Broughton Brass at the Norwegian Nationals, Oslo Fjord Brass, winning the city's first section, and he also made an impression with Eveready at the British Open. So his career, he's had this fantastic, punch mark in it, of course, with the Desford win, but he's also really making a mark. Jaap Mushenga was the winner of the European Brass Band Conductors Competition, but also you saw him win the Dutch Nationals with...
I did indeed, with Bazoon Unkirk. Yeah, absolutely. Really, really stylish conductor. Quite understated in his gestures. We were very impressed when we saw him win at the European Conductors Competition, which was a fine competition this year, by the way. 3 really fine contenders in that final. But yeah, Jaap Mushenga, I think a conductor to really, really watch out for. Very polished, but extremely musical. That was the thing that really came through to me about the performance in Utrecht. It was easily the most musical performance that we heard of Rococo Variations, Edward Gregson's piece. So yeah, that's been a good year for Jaap, I think.
Yeah, fine play. Franz Violet, you've got to say it's been a really good year for Franz Violet for the past 40 years, really. With
yeah, indeed. Yes.
Remarkable. But this year in particular, as you say, capped it by winning both the Belgian Championships and, of course, the fourth time that he's won the European Brass Band Championships, the first time back in 1993. Yeah. Remarkable conductor, remarkable musician, a remarkable figure within the brass banding movement as a whole, and this year he actually showed that. Then we have Ryan Watkins on the flip side of it, a young conductor who is really making his mark both at home and abroad. He conducted the Hepworth Band, got them into the top 6 at the National Championships, got him second place at the Yorkshire Area Championship, and then went off to, I think, with Goethe, or
Yes,
Goethe Brass, and won the Swedish Championship. So
Yeah.
there is a young conductor there really making his mark. And the final one to make it onto our list, Glyn Williams. Of course, people may say the great euphonium player, but Glyn Williams is now making his mark as a very, very fine elite level conductor, not only with the Allburn Band, which he has pushed forward not only on the contesting stage at the British Open Championships, played very, very well. They were a bit unlucky at the National Championships and Brass in Concert.
But fifth place at the Open, and you know, a really, really fine performance. Very sophisticated musical performance, I thought. From
but
Allborn
also
at the Open.
Also headed down into the Southern Hemisphere and won a national title with Footscray Yarraville Band as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, the Welsh get everywhere, and we were down in that's the first win. I think that's the first win Wales have had in New Zealand for ever. I think for us like there. So well done for Glyn, that part of it. So again, that's going to be a difficult one for our judges. I'm going to say we got Pierre-Antoine Savoyard. Great, lovely to hear from you, Pierre-Antoine. And of course, a wonderful composer whose works we've heard with Haute de France. And he says,
we were talking about Haute de France at the Europeans, and it was Pierre-Antoine's test piece that they played as their own choice piece, which was the piece based on birdsong. You'll remember it well. Lots of Messiaen. But a really fascinating, colourful, extended piece of music that was played with amazing relish and virtuosity by Haute de France. So, yeah, good to have you with us, Pierre-Antoine.
Yeah, and he says, glad to see Haute de France nominated with a wonderful CD Storm and their 10th national title this year in 20 editions. Quite right indeed. Congratulations.
Indeed.
He's a great bloke.
Indeed.
He's a great bloke to actually meet up. Right then, so that brings us to the final category, please. My word, there's the gong to end all gongs, and there it is. There are the 10 bands that will be the nominees for the 4Barsrest Band of the Year 2025. We start off with first Old Boys, of course, from Northern Ireland with Jonathan Corrie. There's a band that has swept the board where they've actually gone to, both in Northern Ireland. They've won entertainment competitions, test piece competitions. Then they went into Europe. And I think they won the first section of the Dutch Open, I think it was, if I remember rightly. The Dutch Open First Division in Groningen. So they will be at the first, I think they'll be in the challenge section at the European Championships in Linz. And Jonathan's been around a long time, but I have to say he's done a fantastic job there. Athena Brass Band, we have to say they made such an impression at the RNCM Festival this year earlier on. But they've backed that up because I know Jessica Sneeringer, who is the conductor, is determined to make sure that, you know, they wherever they go, they really make an impression. And they went out and did performances at the IWBC in Hartford in Connecticut and at the ITEC conference in Valencia in Spain. A pioneering band full of wonderful players playing fantastic music brilliantly well. Brass Band Willebroek, we know all about, European champions, of course.
What can we say?
But they also back that up. They do a fantastic solo competition each year. And also now they've been releasing some CDs, long-awaited CDs. Wonderful band at the very peak of their form. Brighouse and Rastrick, of course, the British Open champions. And the most consistent band, I've got to thank Malcolm Wood for this because he told me that. Malcolm Wood says they're the most consistent band out of the elite level bands at the major competitions this year. So that shows you as well. They won the British Open deservedly there. They came very close as well at the Brass in Concert Championship. So a band on the top of their form. The perennial, I think, nominees of Eikanger Bjornsvik, of course, they were the Swedish champions for a fourth consecutive time, second at the national championships in Bergen, second at the European championships as well in Stavanger.
Speaking of consistency, Ewan, I mean, what consistency do we see from Eikanger? I mean, absolutely astounding.
In addition to
levels.
that, they have a real investment in youth. They have like a Hubu, I think it's called, the youth band, which they do, Hordaland, etc. There's a real thing that they do there. And a lot of the new players that come into their band each year are coming through that pathway, including their current principal corner player, who is the son of Henning who was the previous principal cornet player. Then you got Martin Winter's two boys who have come through.
Yeah.
So you got the fathers and sons in the same band. So it shows you that it does work at the very elite level. Fountain City in the USA, again, they win the championships. They've been playing so well this year. I think they won the North American Championship, the US Brass Invitational, and the Gateway Championship. But again, another band that is looking at making sure that they cater for generations to come as well as current generations. They've just launched something called Fountain City United, which is a flexible project-based space for adult musicians returning to brass banding after college career changes or time away from the instrument. So they are doing that. And then Pierre will be delighted. Haute de France is in the list, as we say, not just for their contest performances and the successes that they've actually had, but also that now is, again, they've got a very, very inventive and innovative approach to the repertoire and the people that they work with, including Pierre-Antoine there. The Cooperation Band, well, I think it's been a year for them to remember, so I don't think we have to go back over so many of their achievements, both on the contest stage and away, as well on the concert and projects that they're doing under Katrina Marcella-Wheeler. Valencia, my word, what a band, what a band. Retained both the Swiss National and Swiss Open Championships in 2025. They came third at the European Championships, and they came close. They could have actually won there. They are a band with a very singular purpose, it must be said. They're not a contest band. They're not a band that goes out, I would say, and does all the community action, whatever. But if you want to do one thing and do it well, that's the band that does it possibly better than anybody. And finally, from the other end of the earth, Wellington Brass, once again with David Bremner. And again, they are another band which, you know, really is a band made up of their own players. They don't ship them in from all over the place to play for them. And they are a band, I think they got their Wellington Buzzers, I think, or so the Wellington Bees, whatever, which I think is Buzz Newton, I think it is. And so they're looking after the next generation.
And we'll hear them at Kirkrada in 2026.
They are. There's a lineup in Kirkrada as well.
Absolutely, so it's a terrific lineup for next year.
Lineup there. So that's it then. That's all our nominees for our 2025 awards. Chris, thanks for doing it. We just about nearly got there. We just run 5 minutes over time, so we're sorry about that. But all of these will now be appearing on the 4Barsrest website. You'll be seeing them there. You can come back, and also please subscribe and please share the broadcast that we've had tonight, and to make sure that you look over it again so you won't miss out of it. All the awards will be announced on Christmas Day. I'm going to be busy Christmas morning. I'll open my stocking and then it's down to 4Barsrest and make sure I go do the work. They'll be announced on Christmas Day. And Chris, we'll be back at the beginning of next year.
We will, early in the new year, with a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, a preview of the year ahead.
To look forward to.
And also then followed by a preview of the RNCM International Brass Band Festival. Chris, many thanks for joining us. I know you are going to have a hard choices now, making your selections in each of those categories.
Lots of pondering over the next few days, Ewan, I think.
Pondering over the next few days of Christmas. I wish I could do that. Chris, many thanks for joining us, and thanks to everybody who joined us as well. And that's it from us at 4Barsrest.